Okay, I think the recording is going. And so just to officially welcome you to class today. So you're both seniors. I have taught seniors for my entire career since I was 21 and my seniors were 18 back in the day. Now, of course, I'm 1,000 years older than you guys, but I just love teaching seniors so much. You guys are at such a exciting point in your lives. And so I hope that the things overall in our class you're finding interesting to read. And, I choose them for senior year because I hope that they will help you to kind of think about sort of what kind of a person you want to be. What are your values? What kind of choices do you want to make in your life? And then to get to know a little bit more about your own community, because a lot of times when you're in high school and you're younger, especially like before you have your own transportation and things, you really can only go where people take you. And now that you're getting older, it's so wonderful to explore where you live and find out all the resources that you might not even knew were there. So thanks for coming today. How are you guys doing? Do you want to say hello to each other for a second, or let me know how you think class is going so far?
It's pretty good.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good too.
What did you say, Grace?
I'm doing pretty good too.
Oh, pretty good too. Fantastic. We've got a couple more people that are showing up, so that's wonderful. How are your classes going? Pretty well overall? Are they feeling pretty solid for you?
Yeah. Last year had a lot of classes, so this year is a little bit easier.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
Yes, same with me.
Grace and I were talking about that before class started. You would like to see things going on an upward trend. Zoe, thanks for coming. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Sorry, I forgot to change my name, so it has my mom's name on it too.
Oh, no problem. You could be Zoe and Amanda. That's fine. So we started just a couple of seconds ago. We are, of course, recording this because my principal and vice principal will be watching me. This recording is not about watching you guys. So you just be calm, your regular, wonderful selves, and don't give stuff like that a second thought, but just so that everybody knows, and following the law, it is being recorded, and that's something that you always have to inform people of. So today we are going to look at one of the poems in our Unit 5 collection of works. You have read something by Elie Wiesel, who is a Holocaust survivor. He was a professor at Boston College, and he's a Nobel Peace Prize winner. His essay that you guys read, which actually was a speech, was encouraging people, of course, to care about each other, which is, again, another one of the themes that I hope that you will emerge from our class with, that you obviously already have in you, but to come up with ways that you can care about our society, our community, your own family, and your own selves in specific ways. You also read Martin Luther King, I Have a Dream speech. And so to follow those two, both actually Nobel Peace Prize winners, but also, just super important to the cultural landscape of the United States and the world. We have today a poem by Amanda Gorman. She was the inaugural poet for Joe Biden's inauguration in 2021. And her poem is called The Hill We Climb. I don't know if you've had a chance to see it. Maybe you watched the inauguration itself when it happened. Of course, she was the phenom of the inauguration because she was just this young, vibrant, amazing, well-spoken woman who was 21, but really, man, she looks like she's 15. She just has this little baby face sort of, and she just took everybody by storm. She was amazing. So we're going to look at her poem today for what it has to say. So it's thematic elements and also how she says it, looking at her figurative language, which are some of the learning targets for today. Before we get rolling with things, do you guys have any questions?
Nope.
No? Okay. Of course, there's only the 4 of us in this little Zoom, so I think it should hopefully feel pretty solid, not, stressful to speak or add to the chat or anything. What I always hope is that everybody, of course, in a Zoom will contribute. in the way that they feel most comfortable doing that. So if you want to just pop in and, like start talking as if we were in a regular little discussion, having a coffee, talking about what we saw on the inauguration, that would be great. If you want to add to the chat, that would be great too. And what I'm going to do is switch back and forth between sharing my screen and not, because when I share my screen, then you obviously can see what I'm wanting to show you, but I cannot see chat. So I'll switch back and forth so I can see if you guys add anything into the chat. Sound good?
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Okay. So I have put together a little PowerPoint that will go with our class page. So let me share my screen. Okay, you can see it now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Because when I'm sharing again, I can't see chat. So when this screen is showing, please do absolutely feel free just to, talk like regular people talk. So you see in our Canvas page, this is your student view of our page. So you can see a little background information, and basically just for the purpose of the Zoom today, I took this information, added just a little bit to it, and made a PowerPoint. So it's just a little bit easier to see. If you would like to also have this page open in another window, you can still see my screen sharing, but you can do it in a way that is smaller on your screen. You can say like 50% or 100% or whatever. Obviously 100% is your whole screen and 50 would be half. So you can look at that, and then you can be following along and adding into the written component of this assignment if you'd like to while you're doing that. So this is what you see. You see, of course, I put a little close up of her ring. She was taken shopping by Oprah, who wanted to, encourage her to not only sound her best and say her best message, but look amazing and things like that. And in 1993, Maya Angelou, who was another American writer, and she was an actress, poet, author, everything. She was Bill Clinton's inaugural speaker, and she wrote about how we're all connected in nature, and hopefully we can all live happily in nature together. And of course, she's the woman who wrote the autobiography, I Know Why the Cage Bird Sings. So Oprah had a ring made for Amanda Gorman that alluded to that. So that's just what this little close-up of the ring is. So if you want to have that open, you're welcome to, or if not later, that's absolutely fine also. So her main quote, would somebody want to read that out loud for us?
I can read it.
Thank you.
Says, there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it.
Exactly. So this is a main idea of her poem. Have you guys heard this before? Did you happen to watch her when she was speaking it, or did you see, her speech on YouTube or anything?
I think I did.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yep. Ellie, Zoe, did you guys see it?
I haven't, no.
Okay. Well, both ways are good. So we're actually going to look at it a couple of times. It's short. It's about 6 minutes. Having seen it at the time, and I think like 2 million people have watched it on YouTube or something like that, we'll give you extra context. You'll already know a little bit what she's going to say, so you can look a little more at the figurative language. As you guys know, especially if you've had me from 10th grade on, second readings are a huge key to comprehension. If you haven't seen it, it'll be fantastic and brand new, and we'll watch it one time all the way through without stopping so that you get a sense of her rhythm. She's got a musical quality to how she speaks. She's just fantastic. So a little background about her. She was born in LA. She graduated from Harvard in 2020. She was named the first ever National Youth Poet Laureate. Do you know what a poet laureate is? Have you heard that before? It's not something super in the culture these days.
I haven't heard it before.
Yeah. So poet laureate in the United States, this has happened for probably a century or so, but they will choose, like the National Arts Foundation will choose who they think is kind of the best poet of the time and the generation. And Amanda Gorman has been chosen the youth poet of the United States. She is someone who, you can see there on the page, she has started a nonprofit that is encouraging writing for disadvantaged students. You can look that up, one page, one pen, one page. She is always trying to inspire people to, express themselves, because that's how we share as people, grow as people, connect with each other, make better communities. So as you can see here, she was pretty jazzed to go to Harvard. I mean, that's fantastic as well. So she was selected by President Biden to read this original poem. So she wrote it specifically for this occasion. And in fact, she finished it after the events of January 6th, which, if you remember, were the people stormed in the Capitol. And she, as was everybody, was quite stressed out by that whole event. And so she had written an earlier draft of her poem. And then after the 6th, she made final revisions to it to really make her message clear. So kind of listen with that context in mind. Also, oh, sorry, I keep scooting ahead for a second. She was born with a stutter, a speech impediment, as was Joe Biden, which was another reason that he chose her. They kind of have that connection. So we have learning targets and success criteria. So the goals, of course, today, as I mentioned a little bit before, we're going to read to determine how figurative language adds to the theme. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I have the world's most sensitive mouse. I apologize about the switching. We will determine several themes of the text. We've been doing that, of course, for years. Why does anybody read or write anything? To figure out what the author has to say, for the entertainment value, for the life advice. And so we'll look at that here. We'll compare themes across various genres. This is a spoken word. It's also in writing. We'll look at other things that we've read. And then you guys, at the end of the time today, will hopefully understand the theme in figurative language. We'll have shared your thoughts on one or more of the themes of the poem. If you're happy to speak about that, that's great. If you'd like to write, that's fine too. And you'll also have completed the written components of the assignment, which is something you'll do after this little Zoom is over. And as always, original, accurate, complete, and proofread, my things that you see all over class. And I think a number of the other teachers have adopted those, from what I understand. So that's always what you want to do in any class ever. That is a beautiful success criteria, if you can write original, accurate, complete, and proofread work. So I'm going to stop sharing for a quick second, see if there's any chat. Any questions about anything? Anything jumps into your mind before we watch the poem?
No.
Really.
Okay, well, that's fine. We're ready to start then. All right, so let me share back again. All right. Oh, goodness. All right, hang on one second. What is it doing? All right, tech glitch in my... Is it going to start? I think so. Yep, there we go.
Mr. President, Dr. Biden, Madam Vice President, Mr. Emhoff, Americans, and the world. When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace, and the norms and notions of what just isn't always just is. And yet the dawn is ours before we knew it. Somehow we do it. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. We, the successors of a country and a time where a skinny Black girl descended from slaves and raised by a single mother can dream of becoming president, only to find herself reciting for one. And yes, we are far from polished, far from pristine, but that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union that is perfect. We are striving to forge our union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man. And so we lift our gaze not to what stands between us, but what stands before us, We close the divide because we know to put our future first. We must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another. We seek harm to none and harmony for all. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true. That even as we grieved, we grew, that even as we hurt, we hoped, that even as we tired, we tried, that we'll forever be tied together, victorious, not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division. Scripture tells us to envision that everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. If we're to live up to our own time, then victory won't lie in the blade, but in all the bridges we've made. That is the promised glade, the hill we climb, if only we dare it, because being American is more than a pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it. We've seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share it, would destroy our country if it meant delaying democracy. And this effort very nearly succeeded. But while democracy can be periodically delayed, it can never be permanently defeated. In this truth, in this faith we trust, for while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us. This is the era of just redemption. We feared it at its inception. We did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour, but within it, we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves. So while once we asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us? We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be, a country that is bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation, because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation. Our blunders become their burdens. But one thing is certain: if we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left. With every breath from my bronze pounded chest, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the gold-limbed hills of the West. We will rise from the windswept Northeast, where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked South. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover in every known nook of our nation, in every corner called our country. Our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade of flame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it. For there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it.
Wow. How's that?
Well, what did you think?
That was great.
I
Very good.
second that.
And Zoe, what about you?
I thought it was really interesting.
Really interesting. Yeah. Of course, I think she was an amazing speaker. People were, like I said before, kind of blown away about her. So what I would like for us to do first, if you guys would want to just mention, or you can write in the chat, what were some of the phrases or the sentiments that you heard that you thought were interesting?
It wasn't really something she said, but I just noticed like the way like her body movement fit really well. Like it wasn't too exaggerated, but it was just enough to where it added to the speech, but it didn't take away from it, which I think is kind of hard for public speaking.
Absolutely. Anybody else want to talk about that idea, how she used her hand movements or other things that you noticed?
Yeah, and how she talked, or like how she said it, because sometimes with the tone or like the voice that you use can really get people's attention quicker or better. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. Zoe,
Yeah.
what about you?
I kind of agree with Ellie about the hand movements because I talk with my hands a lot, and sometimes it can be overused. So I think we do really well on that.
Very nice, very nice. And what about her initial message? What would you describe her tone as? The mood or the feeling of her speech?
I kind of had it, but I don't really know how to
Okay.
explain it or like say it.
Anybody else? All right. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure.
Okay, that's totally fine. So like I said, the first time you see something, there's so much to take in,
Yeah.
which is why we're going to look at it again pretty quickly. So what I want to do though is for you, like I have said over the years, if you look at the questions first, that will help guide your attention to pay attention for the things that you're going to be asked about later. So I want to zip through a couple of quick slides and then we're going to watch it again. And that second time, I'd like you to either write a little note somewhere, like I've got some paper here. I always write little notes, but I'm old school. So if you guys have like a note on your phone, if you want to write in the chat, anything at all is fine to kind of just kind of keep things in mind. So I'm going to share screen again for a quick second. Okay, you can see me or the screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so what I'd like you to do is kind of keep in mind 4 powerful lines from her poem. As you saw, she speaks pretty quickly. So I have a little example of that I'll show you in a second. The hill we climb, the lay down arms and reach out our arms, that catastrophe will not come over us. Legacy of love. So it doesn't have to be a long thing, but just like a phrase or a section that you thought was powerful. And kind of think about why you did that. Second, what is her view of our country? Give a specific reason from her poem to support your answer. You always want to refer to the text. And do you agree with her? Why or not? So for this one, this is kind of the tone. Is she worried? Is she upbeat? Is she hopeful? Is she suspicious? Is she upset? What are the mood or the feeling or the tone words that describe what she has to say? So kind of think about that. The next one, which certainly might go with, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Might go with the first thing that you're going to write down some important lines. What is some of the imagery that she uses when she kind of paints a picture in your mind? Of course, the title of the poem is The Hill We Climb. So that's one, but there are lots of others. She's got imagery all over the place in here. So think about what types of imagery she uses and how she uses that to build up her meaning or her theme or a life lesson. And then last but not least, if we have time, we'll talk about this. If not, I know, I gave you guys a time frame. And so I always am hoping that you are going back to what we read earlier and looking forward to what we're going to do next, because in English, I think everything should build on itself. And I always am hoping that you guys are comparing what you're doing to what you have done and so on and so forth. So in the first unit, we looked at Ray Bradbury and Malcolm Gladwell, 2 guys who have nothing whatsoever in common with Amanda Gorman. But I'd like you to think about, what would they think of what she has to say? Would they agree with her? Would they not? And why, based on your understanding of their ideas from what we read earlier? So those are some things to keep in mind. I'm going to start the video again. Is everybody set with a place to take a quick note or so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mr. President, Dr. Biden, Madam Vice President, Mr. Emhoff, Americans, and the world. When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace, and the norms and notions of what just isn't always just is. And yet the dawn is ours before we knew it. Somehow we do it. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. We, the successors of a country and a time where a skinny Black girl descended from slaves and raised by a single mother can dream of becoming president, only to find herself reciting for one. And yes, we are far from polished, far from pristine, but that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union that is perfect. We are striving to forge our union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man. And so we lift our gaze not to what stands between us, but what stands before us. We close the divide because we know to put our future first. We must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another. We seek harm to none and harmony for all. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true. That even as we grieved, we grew, that even as we hurt, we hoped, that even as we tired, we tried, that we'll forever be tied together, victorious, not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division. Scripture tells us to envision that everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. If we're to live up to our own time, then victory won't lie in the blade, but in all the bridges we've made. That is the promised glade, the hill we climb, if only we dare it, because being American is more than a pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it. We've seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share it, would destroy our country if it meant delaying democracy. And this effort very nearly succeeded. But while democracy can be periodically delayed, it can never be permanently defeated. In this truth, in this faith we trust, for while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us. This is the era of just redemption. We feared it at its inception. We did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour, but within it, we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves. So while once we asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us? We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be, a country that is bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation, because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation. Our blunders become their burdens. But one thing is certain: if we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left with. Every breath from my bronze pounded chest, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the gold-limbed hills of the West. We will rise from the windswept Northeast, where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked South. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover in every known nook of our nation, in every corner called our country. Our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade of flame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it. For there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, what did you notice on the second viewing that stood out to you even more than after the first? You guys just talk without me.
When she said justice is never justice, like just is or justice. I think that's what she meant, right? I think. I don't know.
For sure, for sure.
I really liked, there wasn't a whole lot, it's a lot to take in, but I did really like where she said quiet isn't always peace,
Oh,
and we must make love our legacy.
absolutely. And Ellie, I'm sorry.
She says there's many issues and problems, but we can work to make it better. So she gives hope, even though there is trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Grace, did you notice that too?
Yeah.
All
I
right.
like, oh, sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say I like the line where, well, it's not really a line, but it's two of them, where she says, it was pretty quick, but being American is more, being American is more than the pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it. I love how it's really subtle. It's just kind of thrown in there, but it's pretty meaningful, I think, especially for nowadays. So I thought that line was pretty good.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Zoe, is that one of the ones you noticed, or did you hear other things?
Kind of just the two that I mentioned are the ones that I really noticed.
All right, good deal. Yeah, I thought that she, of course, this is a political event, and inauguration is always political, but I thought that she was really striving for universal themes, like Zoe said, you know, love is the legacy, but she didn't ignore the trouble of the past. It was immediate trouble at that point. Inaugurations are always January 20th. So it was just 14 days from, you know, a big, terrible event, but also the lifelong history of the United States is back and forth of striving for a more perfect union. Have you guys in school ever had to memorize the opening to the Constitution, the foundational law of the United States? No, that's kind of a thing that people used to do. It's kind of, you know, nobody really memorizes stuff too much anymore. But part of the opening to the Constitution is that we should always be striving to form a more perfect union. So she took language from the Constitution and incorporated it into her own poem. So the four powerful lines. So we've talked about that. What is her view of the country? So a couple of you guys mentioned that in your discussion just a second ago. What do you think specifically? Like, what do you think she has to say about us as a group?
She's worried and she wants to see change. She's hoping for it. That's, yeah, what Ellie said.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And Zoe?
Yeah, I think she's very hopeful of her country. And I think that she just wants to make the world a better place.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you agree with her?
Yeah.
All right, good deal. And if, oh, to add to the chat for this question, so I'm going to stop sharing for a second. So she, of course, paints a lot of pictures. She creates a lot of imagery over the course of her poem. What are two kinds that you guys noticed? So I'm going to stop sharing. And of course, there's only the three of us. If we want to just talk about it, that's fine too. But if you want to add something in the chat, that's great. So what imagery does she use to build on her hopeful theme for America? That, you know, all is not lost, just like you guys had said.
Well, even the title of it gives an image. So I feel like a lot of what she uses, a lot of, my mind is blinking right now, but she tries to give an image of, like, I just remember she uses bridges, and wait, let me pull it up because I have all right in my thing. My mind is blinking right now, but she definitely uses a lot of objects, and
Vine or something
it's,
like that.
I'm trying to
Did
find
she
the
mention
phrase.
vine?
The sun?
Vines?
Oh, vine. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Is that what you mean?
Yes, that's in
That's
fact,
what I thought.
that line is from the Bible. It's from the scriptures. Are you guys familiar with that? That everyone should sit under his own vine and fig tree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you heard that before? It's also kind of a famous line from the musical Hamilton, if you're familiar with Hamilton. It's the idea that everyone should have a peaceful place of his or her own to just be able to be and to be relaxed and to be peaceful. And so that you should have a little shade and you should have a little comfort in your life, that is a basic right of humanity. Other images? Zoe, anything from you?
Not really.
Okay.
I mean, she does use a lot of analogies and things that like we know today that she was able to put in there so we understand what she's saying.
For sure, for sure. Yep, lots of current and old descriptions.
I couldn't find the one I was looking at, but I love where she says, we lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another. Like, that's such a good, it's like, because you know what she means, but it's a heavy statement with such simple words. It's just really good.
You know, I have to tell you, that is my favorite line also, because it is such a difficult thing to do, to lay down your arms. So she's talking about maybe not forgive and forget, but forgive and move on, which, man, I don't know if you guys have ever been mad at somebody. That is hard.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
little brothers maybe, or older sisters, or, you know, you're anything like that in a small family way, or in a big picture, you step into the history of America way, that to lay down your arms so you can reach out your arms, that is the ultimate in humanity, really. So that's a wonderful one. In fact, I was going to go last, and that's the one I was going to say if you guys hadn't said that also. We are running a little over time, so I'm going to have you look at the number 9 slide about Bradbury and Gladwell when you do the written part of this. But just to wrap up a couple of things, did you guys notice at the time, or now that we've talked about it a little bit, let me share my screen for the last couple of slides, connections to other things, other historical figures, your own personal culture, other things you've read, maybe songs that you know, anything like that. Do you see comparisons and ideas between things that you know of in your own lives?
Like our own personal experiences?
Your own
Or-
experiences, for sure. Things that you know from history, you know, if you want to talk about something more or less personal, anything like that. Yeah.
Well, I think how she says, let me pull it up, but how she can talk. Okay, wait. I think, here we go. A skinny Black girl descended from slaves and raised by a single mother can dream of becoming president, only to find herself resigned for one. But I feel like it's like we've made so much progress, but we still have more to go. I think that I've kind of related to that a lot in my life, where there's a lot I can do now that I probably wouldn't be able to do even like 50 years ago. But, you know, there's still stuff we can try to work on, even though not, you know, it's not perfect, but it's, we're just trying to get there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Grace, Zoe, anything to add?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I agree with that.
Mhm.
I don't have much to add.
No worries. Everybody processes things, you know, in the way that we process things. And so we've had this kind of short poem, but it's got so many huge ideas to it. So as we wrap up, first, what I always hope is that I love when I can find things that are created by young people, because you know, I hope, like I said at the very beginning, that everything that you read in our class will touch you in some way and kind of inspire you to think about who you're becoming and what your choices are that will lead you on your path. But this young woman, I think it's just so crazy inspirational, and that she did blend so many, you know, 1,000-year-old texts with 2 weeks ago things, and the language was so simple but yet so deep, like Elliot said, and just a wonderful example of how you can express an idea through figurative language in a poetic form and share your thoughts with people. And I hope that that's what you guys will be doing also. So here's our little wrap up thing. Do you guys think that you have a greater understanding of the themes and the figurative language of the text? So the metaphors that she uses, the hill that we climb, the imagery that we talked about, the laying down your arms so you reach out your arms, the legacy of love that Zoe mentioned. You all shared your thoughts. I so appreciate that. Again, I know Zoom is kind of funky and seniors do not love it as a group. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate that you came, and you all did such a lovely job sharing and talking. So thank you again. And of course, you've got the written component that you'll turn in, because that's how you get points to be able to pass our class, because all the assignments are in Canvas. So do you guys have any questions about anything? Any last thoughts you'd like to share?
Oh, good.
We're good.
Okay, all right. Every poet who speaks at an inauguration, almost every inauguration has a poet, has a portrait that's painted. This is the official portrait of Amanda Gorman from her inauguration. She has donated it back to Harvard's art collection as you know, a wonderful contribution to the education that she got there. So you know, she was brave enough to be the light, and I hope that you guys will be a light in people's lives today, every day, on little small levels and huge societal levels. Because like you said, things are not perfect, but the opportunities are greater than ever, and they need to keep getting even greater. So when we look back today, we'll be like, can you believe it? 20 years ago, we couldn't have done this, but now look what I can do. So keep doing that, ladies. Thanks for coming. I'll see you guys later.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a
Thank
great
you. Have a
day.
great week.
You too. Bye.
morning, everyone.